Okay, I think we are good to go. Hi everyone, welcome, good evening. So here we are for the September talk for our Melbourne Python group. And as you all know, you are coming here, so it would be very interesting. And I'm Akshat, I'm first time giving my talk as a host here. So let's get started. First, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we are meeting. I pay my respect to their elders, past and present, and the Aboriginal elders of our communities who may be here today. Okay. So there's a link for the code of conduct, and our code of conduct is like you should throw the waste into the dustbin and just keep the place as it was in starting. Okay, and you guys can connect through LinkedIn and Malpie Social. You can get connected and you can get to know about the updates, know about the upcoming events, and from the events what did they surprise. And here we are the sponsors. The place is being sponsored by the Judo Bank. We have Michael from Judo Bank. Michael.
Hi, welcome everyone. It's a great turnout this time. And I'm really looking forward to the talks today. If you don't know about Judo Bank is a bank working in the SME sector to become the most trusted bank in Australia. We have some really great rates on term deposits, so if you're interested, have a look on our website. As for anything tonight, if there's any questions, come see me about any of the facilities. The bathrooms are located past the elevators to your right, and then the second door on your right. They're all gendered, just so you know. And if I can have any help at keeping this place clean, that would be very much appreciated. Hope you all enjoy the talks, because I know I am. Thank you.
Yeah, we have sponsored AWS and stuff. We have Ben from here. Ben here? I don't think so.
Is Ben from Style here, or?
No one.
Do you want to give a quick?
Alright, sure. I've only been at Style for 2 weeks, so forgive me. I've been at Style for 2 weeks, so. We are an ed tech company. We are used in, don't quote me, I may be wrong, one in 4 students in Victoria uses us for science education, so it's online science resources for teachers to plan lessons and students to work through work. But we're building some cool AI tools. When I say cool, I mean they're actually useful. Tools to help teachers plan lessons, print out worksheets, automatically scan and mark and upload student work using AI, which is a very challenging project, which took 4 weeks to get a demo working and probably about 8 months to get into production. But that's the way it goes. But yes, obviously we're hiring, but you can talk to me about that later. Sorry?
Yeah, we will be covering that in the market.
Yeah, I know, sorry.
And another, the last one is the AWS. So here's the agenda of today. We'll be having 2 talks, one from Billy, she is from South Australia, and then we will have a break, and afterwards another talk by Mr. Aman. And then we'll be having a talk by Renaldi, he will be telling about his book, and then we'll be having a marketplace, and then for the hiring, and yet we will be closing it with the networking. Okay, so I would like to call Akshat for the short intro of Hack Days. He will tell you more.
Hey everybody, so I'll introduce Hack Days. So it is basically like short informal meetups where we'll gather on a round table or something like that, like small place, to discuss our projects. If you want any inputs from anybody else, or you feel qualified enough to give feedback to somebody else's project, you can join the meetups. For this stage, we have a new channel added on our Slack. It is called Hack Days. So if you're interested, you can join the channel, and we are looking for moderators for now. So get in touch with us, or you can message us on Slack. Thank you.
So yeah, we are looking for the volunteers who would be promoting our Malpie Meetup and the events. You can also connect with the Slack, and you can get to know about the updates and the events happening and the volunteering opportunities which are available there, so you can connect it over there. Okay, so I would like to call Billy for the first talk.
Quanto. Fantastic. Yeah, great turnout. Good evening, everyone. My name is Billy. My pronouns are her. Maybe a quick introduction. I've spoken with a couple of you earlier, but you might get it from my accent, which is from France, but I'm really a global citizen because as French as I may be, I was born in Africa. I've lived in 5 countries. I've worked in about 12 countries. I've been Australian for 10 and a half years. So yeah, I definitely earned my global citizenship. And in terms of career, I started 26 years ago. Yeah, I'm on the older side. I'm 52 years old now. I started in stock exchange and investment banking with Paris Stock Exchange in 1999. Then I stayed with them for 10 years, moved to Japan where I worked a little bit in stock exchange and investment banking, and then when I was back in France in 2012, I started in air traffic control with a large French tech company called Thales, and I'm still with Thales. So Thales has a broad range of activities, and in Australia it's mostly defense, but I work in the air traffic control part of Thales. I think that's enough about this part, and I'm not here to talk to you about air traffic control, but more about hate traffic control on the internet, on social media and these things, because it's become really hectic these days. The scope of this talk has evolved a little bit since I shared with Renaldi early January an idea, because I've been working a little bit on this project of mine, which is more at the architecture stage at the moment, but hopefully as it stands now, it will bring a little bit of traction, some curiosity, and I'm hopeful to make nice connections tonight with people who would like to join and share thoughts on this, I think, a very important topic. So the agenda, I'll try to stick to it, and I don't have a watch, so it could be hard. Trying to introduce a little bit the problem and the context and the ideas about the solution which I'm proposing, which is, I believe, quite innovative. Some of the architecture overview as it is right now, but it's not set in stone clearly, but it's built heavily around Python. And then if we have time, a little bit about the roadmap, risks, governance, and all of that. So first, where do we start and what is the problem? On social media, and I would say it goes way beyond social media, it's information on the internet in general, content sharing. Lots of it is getting increasingly generated by AI, by bots, okay? We're flooded by content that's not generated by humans, okay? And moderating or analyzing all these contents, because it's so massive, is never practical nor efficient. Okay, you can't analyze every single post, every single image, all of that. It just doesn't work. All the moderation of the platform is different from platform to platform. It's opaque, it's not consistent, heavily politically influenced, and most of the big platforms are owned by very rich Americans who are heavily oriented politically, and the list goes on. So lots of people get harmed, okay? And we talk a lot about control of the age on social media in Australia with the e-safety commissioner and blocking access to social media for kids under the age of 16. But the reality, it's not just people under 16 who are vulnerable, okay? There are plenty of other communities, plenty of other people, including adults, who are extremely vulnerable. And I'm part of one of these category of people, being gender diverse, being trans. I can tell you that I've had my load of hate poured into my social media. Okay, I'm trying to stay away from this. So yeah, all these vulnerable communities are exposed, whether they are kids or adults. There's a lack of really unified way to control the visibility, the access, and to protect, to shield the users from all this hate online. And what's the impact on people? First of all, there's disinformation, because it's not just about hate. Disinformation is a huge thing. And I've got a little link here, I'll share the slide back if you want later. but I read something from the ASPI, the Australian Strategic Policy Institute, in January, who was likening disinformation and to organized crime and saying it needs to be treated like organized crime. And I was like, oh yeah, that's quite interesting. So maybe food for thought, because there's lots to do about disinformation and how it influences people, how it makes people believe whatever is there without challenging, without exercising their critical skills. We're talking about that earlier. There's also, of course, besides the disinformation, targeted harassment towards certain communities, towards certain type of people. And you know, reporting, blocking, getting all of that is next to impossible. It is very slow, highly ineffective, repetitive, and just doesn't work, okay? And all these safety settings are not consistent, they don't work across platforms, so there's not a silver bullet to really make all of that work. And besides this, also, you know, all the community knowledge is trapped in silos, so it's really not great. So now, what am I proposing? But I will start by what it is not, to make things extremely clear for everyone. So it is neither a moderation tool or a policing tool, because the first thing people will tell you if you say, well, I'm going to block this or to hide that, is like, yeah, freedom of speech, but actually it's the freedom of hate usually. So it's not about moderating, it's not about policing, it's about protecting yourself. Just like you can put some earplugs to not listen to the ambient noise or something someone is telling, nobody can argue that using something that's not correct. So I'm just providing the analogy of the earplugs when it comes to social media and internet in general, to avoid people from seeing things they cannot see or they don't want to see for many reasons. It is not either a protection against private abuse via private messages. Why is that? Well, you will see later. The very nature of it is to be completely open source and public, and private messages by essence are private. So there's really not much the solution I'm proposing can do about it, but there are other tools which address this, so it's completely different. Now that I've told you what it is not, let's see what it is, hopefully in just one slide. The big change here for me is to address the account level and the reputation. Why is that? It's because how do the content spread on social media, on the platform? It depends on the popularity of the author, on the visibility of it. And when someone has a bad reputation, you don't have to analyze all the contents. You can just say, I just don't want to hear about, you know, that news channel or that website or whatever anymore. So I really want to target the accounts. And changing accounts every second day will not work because someone who's posting harmful content, they need to build a certain number of followers. So if they have to change accounts every second day, it's not going to work. And the platforms are actually quite restrictive on this. And I've seen that creating sub-puppet accounts to try to read data and have them quickly removed. So even as a consumer, just to read and to analyze content. So account level reputation is the key. It is based on signed reports, signed for accountability, not identity or making someone identifiable. It's just, I want to propose reporting contents consistently signed with a private key that's going to be known, that's going to be building a reputation as well. So in a nutshell, building a reputation of certain accounts posting content, those accounts, whether they come from bots or from humans, doesn't matter, okay? And a number of accounts which have a reputation to sort actually those contents. And that's going to be allowing to have a traceability, to know like this report comes absolutely from the same person as that previous report. So everything is traceable, all the accounts, and everything and everyone is accountable, which is extremely important to me. It's completely open, decentralized. quite portable as well. And it provides to the end user safety à la carte, and I can say that with a good French accent, where you can really choose à la carte all the thresholds, all the tags, because the idea here is to build a taxonomy, to categorize a certain number of content, say, okay, this is disinformation, pure disinformation, this is conspiracy, this is bigotry, etc. You find a taxonomy. It doesn't have to be too rich, but actually you put a few categories. Now, you identify a number of contents. You don't have to analyze all the contents from a certain author, but from the moment you've reached a certain threshold and you've had a number of reports which are weighted by the reputation of the reporter as well, you're going to build a reputation score of a certain publishing account. And again, I don't tie it to a specific individual, it's irrelevant, but you know that a certain account is publishing content that is matching that filter. And then the end user can choose to put the threshold, the cursor, and to filter beyond a certain level of cursor, or even actually go further and preventively block certain accounts or certain users, so they won't even be seen by those accounts. Okay, that's where I think there's and the list can be shared like on some open social media platforms such as Mastodon or Blue Sky, for example. Okay, to name a couple. So you see, the idea here is to really not have to analyze every single piece of content. It's like from the moment you have identified and reached a certain threshold on a certain account, that reputation is done, okay? And then you can preventively protect yourself, hide or even block those accounts from your view, or you can even block them from seeing you. That's what basically doesn't exist today on those platforms. What are the, so the core principles is really, I mean, I've already said some of this, is to leave the end user at the edge, choose what they want to see or not see, what they want to filter, how aggressive they want to be on their thresholds, to be completely open and signed so that you can guarantee that reports always come from the same person. I don't care who's the identity behind this, just a key pair, right? But at least it allows to build some consistency, some reputation from reporters, just like for the accounts. To have all these list publics, to collect the minimum of data, and to be quite resistant to abuse. And again, abuse, there's not so many options for it, and creating multiple accounts will not help, because you need also, as a reporter, to build a reputation, okay? So back to square one, it will help maintain the solution quite robust. How does that work? The contributor sees a content somewhere. They're going to flag it against a certain category or tag, okay? And they're going to report it and sign that report. That report is going to go through a network of federated nodes, and this is going to be analyzed. And there can be some human analysis, there can be some automated analysis. If there's the necessary means, there can be some AI involved for a good cause, just to analyze a number of contents. Not all of them. We're not going to analyze the whole internet. It doesn't work, and it's not practical, again, like I said. So we want to target the high visibility ones, and we want to target the accounts so that we can shut down an account. We don't care what they say afterwards. The harm is done. I just want to block them, and I don't want them to see me. That's all I want to do. And then there's, on the back end, a query that exposes all those scores from the database that's been built based on the reputation, and the clients can consume this. They just make a query. There are going to be some pre-canned queries or block lists, and say, I don't want to see anything about racism or bigotry in general. I don't want to see any content generated by bots, because I'm interested only in human-generated content. And we know that this account specifically on that platform is generated just by bots, so just mute this, etc., etc. So you get the block list, and then you can access it. What about the data model? Is extremely simple. So, like I said, there's multiple platforms to address. On each platform, and there's accounts. and each account is going to have a different type of ID, but they are going to have very well identifiable, unique identification. So platform, ID, and a link to the content in question. That's why it's important to understand that it has to be public, because once the report is done, it needs to be able to be captured, potentially pushed to web archive, so that there's really a trace of that. Another way to sign it, say, okay, because if the content gets is taken down at a later stage, you might still want to have a trace of it, right? But we don't have to do that for all the accounts. Again, from the moment a number of users have reported a certain number of content from an account, that account is classified. So any further reports don't have to be as frequent, because they will be already filtered. And then from the reporter's side, it's just going to be signature, their public key, that will allow to build their reputation as a reference and to establish the scoring, timestamp, etc. I mean, nothing really exciting here. And of course, it's just append only to make sure there's no editing. Everything needs to be fully traceable. I thought about placing this on the blockchain, but it's probably overkill. So for now, I think just signing is more than sufficient. So yeah, quickly, probably not really interesting here, but how would the scoring work, combining the severity, recency, the reputation of the reporter, etc. And of course, making sure that there's also diversity in the crowd of all the reporters to ensure that there's no bias imposed by a single group. So initially, it will be a little bit tricky to build that, but I think it's a platform that can, by itself, maintain itself quite well, as long as you've got enough people participating. Yeah, probably not so much about this because I'm conscious of time, but some examples of what the end user can do on their web browser or their companion application is setting the threshold, choosing if you just want to hide, to blur, or to completely block. Again, doesn't really matter. Very important to be abuse resistant as well, because I would say such a tool, if it comes to life, and it's going to be attacked. And there are going to be massive attempts to abuse it. So again, creating your accounts on private, public key is it's the abuser's problem. Okay, but they try to reach the platform and make plenty of reports, and all those reports rubbish. They will be quickly kicked out, and then their key will be ignored. Okay. And there's going to be some rate limiting, etc. Talking about rate limiting, I said earlier that publishers of content creators need to build a reputation, need to build a follower base, and that's why it is not practical to create plenty of accounts. It's going to be the same here, absolutely. Of course, yeah, diversity checks, I said that earlier, and preventing fake accounts. Do you want to talk about governance and transparency? In very short, so there's reporters, reviewers, maintainers, but I think we'll try to talk a bit more about the technology. So let's skip that, and again, I'm going to be sharing the contents. A quick one on hiding and blocking. Like I said earlier, the end user has a choice to set the thresholds, but also to hide or block. Okay, that's two different approaches. They serve a different purpose. They're complementary, and they are both valid depending on what you need. And of course, it can be progressive depending on how you use those lists. On the client side, initially I was thinking about a browser extension because there's no way we can get inside those mobile applications that are built for certain platforms because they are closed by essence. So a web browser is going to be where it's going to be the easiest to implement the filtering and the hiding. Nevertheless, if a user wants to be a bit more aggressive, when they select a list of accounts from the central database based on a certain threshold, they can leverage the basic APIs, and we can hack those APIs fairly easily to preventively block a number of accounts. And in some experiments, you can go as high as thousands of accounts blocked. There's been weeks where, without tooling, without scripting, I was blocking about 50 people a day. Okay, that's how bad it was towards the end of last year and early this year. And I'm absolutely not popular. I don't have a big account. It's incredible the amount of hate you can find on the internet. But again, like I said, it's not focused on hate. Disinformation, conspiracies, all sorts of things. And all of this, of course, needs to be usable by non-technical users or a little companion app to help noobs navigate and pick the right filters. Ultimately, it would be great if this could pick up and if the platforms, the social media platforms, want to connect to this new tool and get the filter and offer them to their users at the source to filter the contents. They don't have much to lose, and it would be great and probably easy to do on the open ones such as Blue Sky and Mastodon. So everything, and that's where we're going back to Python. We're going to be mangling with a certain amount of data. Again, I want to be lean. It's not about analyzing all the internet, all the contents that are posted on social media. It's about analyzing just a few scattered around on certain accounts. So it doesn't have to be huge. It doesn't have to be a massive farm of GPUs and data centers consuming megawatts. Plenty of small nodes are sufficient to do that job. So we need some API actually to send those queries, process them, validate everything that everything is right in the right form with a little bit of our web server. We need some storage. So again, it can be anything like even SQLite 3 could be sufficient in many cases, but it could be scaled up and leverage blockchains. Right now, the architecture is not set in stone. It doesn't matter. We've got building blocks which can be replaced as long as we've got signed reports and a place where we put the results of those reports analysis. We're good. And yeah, for crypto, you'll play a little bit with Pioneer CL4 to really generate assigned contents and check them. That works absolutely amazingly well, very easy to do. So, in terms of libraries, this is my selection again, not set in stone. This will certainly ring a bell with many of you. There's plenty of options out there. Just like there are also plenty of options to interact with the social media platforms, but again, it's not the ideal, and I've really moved away from this part and prefer to focus on identifying the accounts and providing something that's not interacting directly with the platform, and that's going to be a lot safer, a lot easier to implement, and no one can really argue against this because it's addressing only public contents that everyone can see. So yeah, these are, in a nutshell, all the things I have in mind in terms of the different layers of the tooling. Probably on the front end, the filtering, the plugin, and the client little companion app. That would probably not be Python, I'm afraid, but there's going to be a bit of everything for everyone. So everything, yeah, stateless query API, all of these scales, and once again, because it's not about analyzing all contents, it can scale easily. It doesn't require massive amounts of processing power, and it can be built around a network of federated nodes that synchronize with each other, and that's going to be a lot easier to scale horizontally. That's about it. Now, what's next? I would say document all of this, publish all this schema, and get some people on board to challenge my ideas, because for now I'm alone on this. I've shared the idea with a few people who seem quite excited, but I want to publish this. I want to make this public. Need to push it a little bit and to be challenged, because something you do learn is never going to be good enough to be published. But with a few passionate people, I'm sure we can get something, and then we can, spin up a couple of nodes and contact some software providers and walk towards an MVP fairly quickly, which will take us to. I don't want to talk about this. I'll skip this one because what's the time? Okay.
We have time.
Oh, we have time. Okay, I'm just rushing. But I can also come back, and I would like to take questions a little bit, even if we have some time to discuss. But again, so really important for me to take on board from the beginning risk and mitigations, and I've just been challenging myself, which you can imagine is always difficult. But I've done so in trying. Okay, so what? I'm trying to take the other seat in front of me. What could they do to harm me? What could they do to actually make this not work? So try to really think about false positives, chilling effects, all the problems of interacting with the platforms, all the malicious reports, and trying to find some mitigations against all of this. Okay, but there's probably a lot more to go through to identify. To have a solid proposal that won't be destroyed in a Shark Tank by people like you. What have you done about this? It's like, and that's where, when I already say when we build that MVP, it's going to be really important to reach out to NGOs, research organizations, and get out what's happening right now in Australia. We are really in a good place, actually, with the Safety Commission here, and what they're doing with social media control for minors. But I'm sure they would be happy to give a grant and to sponsor a little bit of this to see the idea come out and see if it can work. Okay. Also, it could be individual sponsors, people who are wealthy, who are willing to spend a little bit of money to make our online world safer again for everyone, not just the younger generations, but everyone as well, so that you stop seeing rubbish. Browser and platform integration, see how we can liaise with some of the major browser software companies, see how we can collaborate with universities and academics to do a bit of research on the abuse on all the different areas where we could explore and share their how this platform is built, how to analyze the reports, and see how we can get them on board, and if you have some funds to sponsor a little bit as well. And of course, all of these being open, I'm hopeful that it would allow people to get interesting information from all these data, which can be independently analyzed and feedback into the system to make it better. So how is that different from what exists today? And actually I'm going to put that down the bottom because there's a number of tools. You might have heard about community nodes, formerly Birdwatch, that was initially launched by Twitter. Yes, I'm going to dead name that fucking Twitter. Or whatever. I said the X word. But yeah, community nodes. Footnotes, I've come across Microsoft Procedure, Detoxify, and a few others. I've got some links in the presentation at the back, but you'll find all of those. So there's a number of tools, but again, all those tools, they are designed to analyze contents, not accounts. So be very mindful. What I believe is innovative approach here is really to target accounts. It's extremely simple, but I think it's extremely powerful because once someone has got a reputation on an account set, it's fairly easy to block them or to mute them, at least. So it's going to be completely cross-platform, account-centric, everything open, sign reports, and it's really focused on shielding. So we are not attacking freedom of speech. We're not even attacking freedom of hate, public hate. We're just delivering a solution that helps people put some earplugs or noise cancellation headphones and protect themselves from content they don't want to see because it's going to harm them or because it just actually makes them waste their time. So what do I need? Some contributors, obviously, to help finish building some schemas, some APIs, little prototypes. It doesn't have to be huge. Need probably some people more on the security side of things to review all the risks of the solution, and some UI contributor to help build an extension companion app to interact with this. But again, the solution itself is not massively complicated algorithm with lots of windows. It's not a complex UI. It's in fact fairly simple, and that's why I think it can be successful. It could really work. And of course, yeah, some testers. I think I know quite a few people would be interested already. And partner nodes, again, given the frugality of the amount of resources this solution would require to operate, it doesn't have to be huge virtual machines with GPUs, whatever, name it. It can be really very small containers running distributed, especially for an MVP. That would fit easily in a tiny container on my whole lab. It doesn't have to be a massive virtual machine in a public cloud provider. Yeah, that's it. So feel free to connect. That's my LinkedIn. We'll have plenty of time to network as well. And I'm taking questions again. This is really high level, but yeah, I'm hopeful we can really put our hands in the dirt together in the very near future. That's it. Thank you.
Do we have any questions for anything? Any questions?
Here, let me bring the microphone up.
Hey, Billy, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks for the talk. Can I just ask you, is there like an education piece for the people who are doing the testing? Like, I don't know, it could be bias, it could be their inexperience in knowing what's good, what's bad, what's great. Like getting them to understand what is good, what is bad. Like, is there an education piece where they can be kind of told that, hey, this is where you could be a bit more understanding of the situation, rather than assuming that, oh, they just don't know, so they're blocked, something like that.
Well, you see, like, it's not about good or bad. It's not even that. And so we've got some expert of education, so maybe I'll reach out to them. So again, it's not about good or bad. It is about tagging and identifying topics. Really, it's just like nudity. I'm not here to say whether nudity is good or bad. I'm just saying, this content, does it qualify as nudity or not, whether it's legal or not, where the content was created, whether it's legal or not, where the content is potentially consumed, is absolutely not in the equation. It's putting some labels, okay, and then the end user chooses, I want to see this or not, because I think it's good or I think it's bad. So I'm not even deciding on behalf of someone else whether it's good or bad. Now there's some caveats, there's some exceptions to this, because we might have to identify or flag things, racism, hate, what is hate, but well, given that there's some clowns in the US who can absolutely say publicly, I hate my opponents, I hate people who don't think like me, and they don't mind saying that publicly. So yeah, that's called hate, right? So we can tag it as hate. I'm not saying hate is good or bad. Actually, I have got an opinion, but this platform is not about saying what's good or bad. It's living up to the end user, the choice of seeing or not seeing, blocking or not blocking, things that match a certain taxonomy or classification.
Any other questions?
Yeah. Hello? Yeah. Hi, I'm Rohan. Yeah. So first of all, I would like to know, like, are we going around internet finding these accounts, or are we depending on the reviewers to post, like, to block such, like not like block, but like tag the accounts which they feel like are malicious or whatever? Like, what are we depending on?
Okay. So as you can see, there's at least two categories of participants in this system. There's contributors to the identification and the flagging, and there's consumers. Those two can actually be the same person, but these are two different roles, and you don't have to wear both caps. So again, it's not about going after accounts and seeking things, but people are free to do so. Again, someone who is very wealthy and has the means to invest in a system that's going to scrap social media for content, right? Going to make a key pair to participate in this network and submit reports for certain contents. As long as those reports are valid, we are also going to be able to build a certain level of reputation. We might have to rate limit it, but so it can be human analyzed, it could be also automated. And by the way, from the moment you identify an account that is generating a certain category of content, if you dig a little bit and look at the engagement with this account, whether these are comments or likes or things like that, it can help you actually walk around, build a network, and know what other accounts could be potentially of interest to monitor. But again, I'm not saying it has to be done, but to get back to your question, so participants initially, given the small scope, maybe limit on one platform, and people focused on a certain topic and just flagging. And remember, we're not flagging specifically the account, we're flagging some contents, but of course every content is linked to an account. And once we reach a threshold, a number of contents with the same account, that's where that account will end up with a rating in the database. I'm not sure, did I answer your question?
Yeah. I mean, I get it. Yeah, but like, I would like to ask a question furthermore. Like, don't you like, why are social media websites not doing it right now? Like, whatever you're saying, like even we report like, if you report a few posts on Twitter, let's say, then why are they not blocking that account, or why are they not stopping them from?
Again, because we have no control on their moderation rules.
Okay.
Where we have no control on their policies and what they consider to be hateful speech or not, what they consider being acceptable or not. And we don't have to make that decision. We don't even have to do it. The end user does. We are just flagging a certain number of contents that matches interesting. So it's just about flagging some contents and leaving the end user a choice.
In the interest of time, we'll wrap this Q&A session up for now, but if you want, you can pretty much talk to Billy and pretty much ask her more questions again after in the break as well. So yeah, once again, let's give Billy a round of applause.
Till the time people are coming, I just wanted to start with raising a question first. How many of us are aware about a word prompt? From here, if you can raise your hands, that would be really, really great for me. Perfect. I think majorly all of us know, because that will set the standard for me on all the terminologies, the words which I would be using. I would be aware of what I'm going to say. So to start with, I think all of us are here. My name is Aman Madaan. I work at ANZ Bank. I started with the bank back in 2021. I was a little bit of introduction about me and my journey. I was about to graduate in 2021 August. I started working with them around March or April. Since then, I've been working as a R-Shiny developer, Python developer, product owner, and then data scientist or Gen AI engineer finally. So that's something about me from where I'm coming. During this period, I got enough chances to communicate about some of my projects, some of my researches. I'm a bit vocal about whatever I'm working on, and I really like to present my ideas and thoughts as well. So for this opportunity, I think I saw it somewhere because I'm part of Meetup. One email reached out to me and saying, hey, we are looking for presenters on this, and I was like, this is good enough for me, let me go and just register myself. So thanks to everyone who approved my request, and I'm here. Thanks to all the organizers, the bank, AWS, and the other sponsor as well. To start with, we are here for the topic prompt ops, efficient prompt management and operations. Now that all of us are aware about the word prompt, because of this ChatGPT, LLMs, and AI, I think this prompt word in itself, it started with just a string or a sentence, but it has converted from that string to somewhere which has become a little bit complex in the tech world. And if we still think of it as string, somewhere down the line in production, we'll somehow feel this is not good enough as an architecture, as a tech stack point of view. The reason being, just a minute word change would give you an output change, which would be, it could be like 200 to 300 lines, but which is now focusing from, let's just say, a text behavior to a JSON behavior. Right? Just a one word change would give you so much of changes in your output. It's like a magic spell, right? But again, the problem is magic spell is not scalable. To scale it, we need to use this terminology, which is prompt ops. Again, think of it as something which we are doing in DevOps for software engineering. So this is the need of an hour now. And to start with, that was our introduction. From prompt ops overview, the reason why do we need prompt ops is, let's just say we started with the POC, which is proof of concept, right? We have wrote down the code within Python. We started with our question, which is prompt. Let's just say, I need you to research on this document, which is PDF format, to help me analyze few data metrics, right? It started with just this minimal prompt, that too in a Python file, which is recognized as a string somewhere, but it won't end it here. So your starting question be just enough for maybe a POC, but eventually down the line, it would turn out to be one big paragraph or one big formatted document, which is just going to answer one simple question. But if we have to change this, right, from time to time, your prompts, your questions would change because your demand is changing with business. Your requirements are changing with business, right? So if that demand or requirements are changing, you need to change your prompt. But changing the prompt, going back to again a Python file from dev to staging to prod, it's actually not, like easy enough to just make that change, that to in a whole of Python file. It is not good enough, not as an architecture point of view. Nobody would recommend you. If someone from a senior engineer level, they would say, hey, that's not the ideal approach. So now the problem is my prompt is sitting within Python file. I need to change the prompt, but from dev to staging to prod, it's going to impact that whole big sword of code. What should I do now? Should my prompt be sitting in that Python file? No. But then where it would be sitting? That is what we are going to see in next few slides, but that's the problem. That's why this prompt ops is needed. Just one example. There are multiple examples related to versioning, structuring, storing. And this is what we have covered. If you see from first point, which is structured prompt management. Second is enhanced collaboration. Third is quality and reproducibility. Fourth is scalable prompt operations. Second is the best one for me. Now I'll give you an example why it's the best one. So where I work, we need to consistently talk with business. We need their approvals and we need to show them how their demand or how their request is changing in the output which our code is getting, right? So from time to time, if I have to sit with business, it is very difficult for me to communicate it with business because all of this process could take time. Sometimes the need of R is business want to see the result by their own, or like whenever they are in the app, they just need to see that result. So just to make that collaboration thing work, what we came up with, we built a Streamlit-based app where we have designed a UI which is taking care of all of these components, which is structured prompt management. So business would just come, all they have to do is just write a line or a question. Rest, all of architecture is being taken care by that Streamlit UI, and at the back end there's a Python code. So they are still writing in whatever is they are comfortable with ChatGPT, let's just say. Simple question, but at the back end, there are few stitches here and there, which is taking place, and they are just reviewing that output. How easy it is for them to just view that output on that specific document that they can upload in just minutes or seconds. If we wouldn't have been here with these 4 things, this Streamlit idea or UI wouldn't have been possible. My apologies, I couldn't share that because it's sort of, I would say, internal architecture. That's why I couldn't show this, but I'm giving you a rough idea of how it's possible. And challenges in AI prompt management is, I'll start with something which I was reading on LinkedIn today. Consider AI as a baby, right? So if a baby is born, you'll be working for so many things just to help that child grow, right? Starting from basics, which is A, B, C, D, then to how to drink the milk, water, and whatnot, right? From first step in the morning to last step towards the bed, a mother or a father is teaching the baby to get trained on those things. So if we consider that same analogy with AI and with prompt management, it was that way. So it was developed, it was launched. Back then it was not matured enough. Now it's getting matured, so we can focus on a little bit more on the training side, structuring side, versioning, storing it, and whatnot. So these were the few challenges which I would say which we have just now discussed. And how we can streamlining is a little bit of what I have communicated with you is with that Streamlit UI, where we are taking care of all of the structures, uploading the document, showing the output, everything connected so nicely, and how these components are connected, we will see that in next few slides as well. And again, I mean, if the business is able to just see the output within one click, that actually defines the strategy, what output it would be required to satisfy them, right? So if they are sufficient enough with whatever they are playing with, I think you are good enough with the third point, which is ensuring high quality outputs. That's the best human feedback in loop that we have integrated just within our workflow. Before I proceed forward, anyone up till now, any questions so far? Am I making a little bit of sense or just not enough? All good? Okay, perfect. So now that we have seen a little bit of basics from one component to other component, the challenges, the overview, the introduction, why do we need something like this? How is it connected to DevOps, right? All of these things would be connected and would be needed for us to understand the next bits, which is for any operations like DevOps or prompt ops to work, these 3 things would be the key pillars, I would say. One is lifecycle management. If we are able to crack that lifecycle, I think we are good with first part, which is how we are going to store, version, and secure it, right? The second bit is governance and standards. Working in the bank or any corporate industry, I think nowadays governance and standards would be the second, or I think first most as well, I would say, that this is needed. So if you can go on whatever you are creating, storing or versioning it, I think that's the best part, and that's the first bit which you need to crack as well. Even if you are not there where you are going to implement with MVP, there are few processes in place which would ask you to, just explain this second step, how you are going to govern it. Third is what we have seen is like how we are making it, working with collaboration and repositories. Repositories is something, so let's just say we are going to store our prompts, right? I think GitHub is something which everyone is aware about. So within the repos, we all can create some folder-like structure specific to projects. And what sort of experiment we did, I'll show you that. But within repositories, we all can store it. That's how like all of the other code is sitting as well. So that was a bit about prompt ops framework. Now, whatever we discussed in the previous slide, from governance, from the other bits as well, securing those 3 things would require us to actually get better at these 4 things. First one is versioning, which is again can be done if you want different version of prompts. The reason being, let's just say if we have cracked with something, for example, I am playing with something. I played with some sort of a question, right? That gave me some output. And then during my research, when I was playing with that question, I actually challenged and changed a little bit more every turn in every iteration. And towards the end, my question was something which was not giving that output which I wanted. But within these iterations, there was one iteration which actually gave me the right output. Now to go back and just figure out that, it's again taking time, right? How about we version it and we store it somewhere so that every version starts with v1 dot something, v2 dot something. It is easier for business and for us in tech to just review, okay, this v1 version gave me this output. And that was when it was ran yesterday. Today, somebody came to this website or app, they changed it to v2 and this gave me this output. So this gives the transparency, traceability and everything else as well, right? And again, testing is something which is ongoing at the moment within that Streamlit UI. Now, third bit is something similar to how I would say is how to make business happy. If you have got some evaluation matrix which you are showing to them or even to yourself, okay, at least I have done enough to match these standards. This is what my matrix is saying. I think good enough. This is sort of like a metadata sort of string, which I am storing it with every run of the prompt, which gave me some output, which would eventually help me in future or to some other team member, right? So let's just say if somebody tomorrow comes in who doesn't know anything about prompts, who doesn't know anything about how to actually write a prompt or how to integrate it with their PDF or their text document. But they are way too much comfortable about visiting an app where they can see something on UI and they can understand, okay, this is something where I need to upload the document. This is something like a text area where I just need to write the question and click on a button and then it will give me something, right? So if evaluation over there and the testing and versioning, it's happening all at the back end, it makes it easier for them. They don't have to do much and they don't need to be worried about that. It's my job, it's engineer's job, right? To make all of this system stitched together to solve the problem. So yeah, I think the last bit is deployment. This is something which we'll cover in the next few slides, but these are 4 pillars which would eventually help us to get better with these challenges. All right, now it's about best practices and patterns. So up till now we have covered a Streamlit UI where we are going to upload the document, prompts we can see, there are few tags in place or categories in place. Through those categories, anyone can look into, okay, something related to fin crime. A team from financial crime has come just first time on this app, which is a Streamlit based UI app. And they are like, oh, actually, I just need to know if anyone in the fin crime team has written any prompt. And if they have, what is their sort of content or what is their sort of questions, how they have developed it. Through somewhere on the UI, you could actually go and filter out those categories. If you are choosing fin crime, it will pick something from those repositories or registry, would fetch that content, show you, and the output as well, right? And this is good enough for them to start with. They've got a starting bit, which is, okay, I need to play a little bit more with these words, but I can make it work. So that's how it's going to help. And then over there, although it's just an experiment, what if within fincrime, within fraud, within risk, within legal and whatnot, we all have got some templates to start with. So when I say templates, that would give them enough idea how they need to structure their prompt. They just need to change a little bit of something, and that would make it happen. So that's the first bit. Second bit is prompt registry. Think of it as somewhere on the GitHub repository, which is different to all projects, right? For example, if you are working on a project ABCD, ABCD project will have some registry folder which would have /prompt hub, which we'll see that in the next few slides. That prompt_hub is required in every other project. Once you see this folder, that's how the Streamlit UI app knows, okay, the registry exists within this prompt hub folder. It's easy enough, is it good enough to make just consistent with across all the other projects as well. And just one UI working across all of these repositories. That's prompt registry. Third is, this is much needed thing, which is role separation and governance. So if you guys are aware about RBAC or some sort of these things, which revolves around role-based governance or access-related approaches, which is, let's just say, I'm an engineer who have worked on this tool. I might be having let's say 100% of the access. So I know most part of it is actually is something which I can relate and work on. But there could be other members in the team where it's not needed for them to see what exactly working in fincrime, what is exactly working in fraud. Specific to fraud only, they would be able to see that registry. So this is related to that, which is easily doable with Streamlit, Python, and whatnot. And the fourth is feedback loops for improvement. Nowadays, when we started with this AI approach, first thing was whether it's giving us a result. Nobody at that point of time, was thinking or was looking at, is it actually relevant? The first bit, the exactly first bit when this came into picture, ChatGPT, everyone was curious, they just wanted to try out. But when it got a little bit of mature, then people were like, is it giving me the actual output which I need? That's the point of time when evidences, links, whether this thing is actually making sense. If there is a attached link to it, can I get that evidence as well? So feedback loops for improvement is something which we integrated within our UI flow, where a business person can go and say, hey, within this prompt, the output which came, it's good enough, but it's 70% there, not 100% there. And now that they know this prompt is giving me this output, they are curious enough, what if I change few words, and if I have changed it, this gave me this output. So then they can submit the feedback, okay, in additional comments, okay, this is something, if you change this prompt to this would give us the result which we need. But problem is, that's one user. The other user who is comfortable enough with the other questions would come and say, hey, I am going to change the prompt for all of these questions because this works better for me. But actually it has impacted all the other prompts. So there needs to be something like CI/CD in place where a business person is coming and just submitting the feedback, submitting the rating and giving a thumbs up. Then once it has gone from that stage to somewhere where engineer or admin will review those prompts and see whether these changes were needed or not. So once they review it, all they need to do is just click on it and some pull or merge request would happen at the back end and actually would be deployed to a production URL. So this is easy enough. So this is why this feedback loops for improvement is much needed. And once integrated, I think the whole bits were now making sense. So now we are a little bit clear about, okay, this is something like how it is working with Streamlit UI. How do we need to, place human feedback in loop? and how do we need to place all of these lifecycle components, versioning and this and whatnot. So now comes the best part, which I was telling, which is the prompt hub. So within a project, if you have got a prompt hub, how you can segregate it. To all those who are aware how ChatGPT or LLM works, there are two prompts which are required. One is system, other one is user prompts, right? A system prompt can be generic enough, which would work with, let's just say, for one use case, almost all of the prompts, right? This is something which is the most basic thing which a business require, and they are clear enough, okay, I want, let's just say, a JSON formatted output in every question, right? This is something which I know, right? So I would put that in system output, system prompts. Because this would be generic across all the user prompts. And the reason why I'm saying this would be generic, because somewhere down the line we will see how these components are being stitched, but within my system prompts, if you see, we have got YAML files now. Because it's not good idea to just store your prompt as a string somewhere in your code file, right? So the best idea would be just store somewhere in YAML file or something like that within some GitHub repository. So this is because this was generic. I have got within prompt hub, prompt_hub is a folder, consider that. Within prompt_hub, there is two folders, system prompts and user prompts. Within system prompts, there are again few files. For example, system prompt, YAML, instructions, and guidelines. This is generic across all the prompts. And when I'm saying prompts, that could be, let's just say, for a PDF document, let's just say there are 26 questions. To those 26 questions, there would be 26 prompt files, right? And when I'm saying 26 prompt files, that's something in user prompts, which starts from P1, P2, all the way to P26. From folder prompt hub to system and user, from user to P1, P2, all of these subfolders exist. And those P1 would have something like config.yml, then prompt.txt, and other files as well. So this is a rough idea of how it can be stored. And the way how we have utilized it is, I have written a prompt engine script within Python, which is actually trying to look the prompt hub folder, whether it exists in a repository or not, or a project area. And this prompt engine is actually installed as a package. So it's a package which is written in Python. It's going to look into prompt hub and would stitch every system prompt to a user prompt, right? So these are four or five few things which would eventually help, and how we are making sure with prompt engine. And this step, I think I have already explained, like how we have integrated within CI/CD workflows, version, and how collaborative documentation would actually help. On that Streamlit UI, I have mentioned all of these steps as well, how they can use and utilize that tool. So from first step to the end step. And this is something related to prompt evaluation and quality assurance, which is how setting a role and how collaborative review and structured evaluation files are actually making sense. Once it has gone down to that line where actually one business user has ran all the prompt files, they've got all the metadata files stored somewhere. And these four things would be looked at: how much our score was actually evaluated with that prompt, whether somebody from business actually approved it or not. And yes, from today's takeaways, I think there would be three major areas, which is structured AI prompt management, how the structures in this prompt hub within the system and user prompts folders are actually making sense and integrated in our workflow so that it can actually build out to something which is really good and efficient enough for a business user. The second bit would be where we saw prompt hub, prompt engine, and integration into leading workflows. The third bit is what would be the benefits if we adopt it. I would say, rather than seeking the benefits, see it from that angle, what you are losing if you are not doing this. So, and once you go down to that path where you are seeing what you are losing, it would be actually more than where you were trying to figure out the benefits. So these are a few bits, but yeah, majorly this was the slides, and this is the end of the session. Open to QA round, and yeah, please.
Hang on, I'll bring the microphone to you.
I think I rushed down a bit, but I wanted to cover actually a lot, so I hope I made sense.
Hi. So, first of all, I completely agree that prompt engineering is something that can lead to previously we were doing web development and we were using HTML, CSS, and these things, and every web version controlling takes a major role. So while seeing the actual prompt version, like Prompt Hub, so recently Microsoft had launched something called POML, that is Prompt Orchestration Markup Language. Do you think that that would be that file system would be a better approach rather than YAML?
Good question. I think this is something which we keep on discussing within our teams as well. The problem is, as soon as you start working, this field is actually so good. Every new day, every new night, there will be something new which is launched. By the time you have got the approvals, you have confirmed on the architecture and design, the next morning you come up and there's something new. So this is actually a good point, and we know about this. The problem was when we started, we figured out every new day we were seeking something new coming from new team member and saying, oh, this is good. The next day something is replacing the other one, right? So we actually agreed and came up to a conclusion. In market there would be multiple ways. We just have to pick one and just get better with that. So that was our way of doing it with YAML, but I'm pretty much sure it would be better if we would have gone through something with Microsoft. Maybe in future we would replace it, but yeah.
But just one thing, in terms of maturity wise, I know YAML has been used and been tested for quite some time, but do you think POML is mature enough right now? It's being used?
Releasing it from Microsoft, it would be good enough, but if it would have been me who would be taking this decision, I would take that as no. The reason being, if something is out there in market, I would want somebody to test it, because where I am working, it's the most regulated part. If I do something which just got launched, and the next day something would come up, it would be eventually me who is causing that harm to my customers. I wouldn't even say it's the bank who gave me approval, it would be me who took that decision, you know. So I would be making sure if it would be me, that something which is existing from the past is actually being consistent, being used by all the other industries as well. I'd choose that first. But again, I think if eventually Microsoft, whatever they have launched, it might be eventually better, so we might replace it, yeah. But I might not be, answering whatever you wanted, but yeah, this is my bit, yeah. Thank you.
Hi, great talk, learned a lot. My doubt would be very simple because I couldn't see what was actually built. So, but what I'm trying to grasp is that this whole aspect of prompt management, and they can see versions and all of that. If I take that aspect out of the Streamlit app, is it something like I go to any LLM, UI of an LLM, drop my PDF and ask the question? Is it very similar to that? And only reason is that in your case it is banking, so you can't do that, and you are trying to do it in an environment where it's not publicly trained. And in considering that I take out those versions and all of that, which I can't do with public platforms and all of that, is it at the end of the day something similar to that?
Just one component which is similar, which is uploading the document text field and a click of button.
Yeah.
But apart from that, there are few things which is happening, which is, I would say, from governance and standard point of view, there are few aspects which is being covered over there. The categories and the already existing templates, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's even there nowadays in ChatGPT as well, somewhere down the line. I think I would say, from the feedback point of view, that's a major thing which is not existing out there in the market.
Yeah.
But apart from that, I think it's already there in the market.
And regarding the version control, I was just curious because there have been times where I have used the same prompt, and sometimes it does give same prompt different outputs because it's going out and there now the data is different. So would that not happen in your case because it's the same PDF, or if it's not the same PDF, it's public, wouldn't that change? And they will be like, because I feel like in these kind of projects it's difficult to get business owners on it, and once you get them on it and if you lose that confidence, it's very hard to make them use it again if they lose that confidence.
Good question. I don't know if I should answer it or not. I mean, all the other guys would have cracked it as well. What we are doing it is different families of LLMs. So to match and to have that criteria where this output is good enough for us, we'll go and use some other family. For example, if the output came from Gemini, we might be using it through GPT, right? So once we know 5 or 6 runs gave us something similar, we are good enough for that. One run might not be giving us, although Gemini also launched Seed, which was there in GPT, but again, even in Seed, it's not 100% same reproducibility which you would get. But down the line, I think there are a couple of solutions which you can figure it out on internet, but something which I have said is using different families of LLMs, just making sure whether the 4 or 5 different runs gave you something similar or not. Thanks. I think you had some question as well. Okay, sure.
Okay. Thank you, Aman, for the fantastic talk. Now I would like to call Renaldi for a lightning talk.
Hey everyone. So, okay, seems like it's not yet appearing. That's strange. Oh yeah. Okay. Hello everyone. So yeah, pretty much gonna wrap up with the last lightning talk of the night. This is really gonna be a lightning talk because I'm gonna try to get this done pretty much within about like 10 minutes. So yeah, pretty much will be a relatively fast one and to close the night, and relatively, I would say, kind of like pretty much like a good smooth AI one again to pretty much like close it off. So as the title suggests, from image to insights, I'm pretty much gonna talk a bit about image extraction, particularly within the Azure ecosystem, and just more or less how to be able to utilize that, essentially to be able to utilize OCR particularly to extract handwriting from a particular image essentially. And just more or less to show how easy it is to get started in case those of you who might not actually have much experience with AI or pretty much with image extraction in particular. Maybe a quick show of hands, who here has already played around with AI tools before, particularly regarding Python? All right. Okay, most of the audience, that'll make my job much easier. Okay, so yeah, to get things rolling, pretty much, just a quick introduction about myself. Currently I'm a software engineer. Currently, I'm also instructor and author, host as well of a podcast called Server Sorcery, spoken at more than over 50 events, conferences, also one of the organizers of the Melbourne Python Meetup, and in general, just enjoy a lot of things AWS, open source, virtual reality, and generative AI. So why OCR in particular? Well, there's a big emphasis on understanding a bit more about how you're able to extract essentially text from different images. Work with unstructured images particularly, get the relevant business data. So if you're working, for instance, like within a retail institution or maybe like finance, you're used to be able to need to extract like things like IDs, invoices, labels, signage. These are things that you need to extract quickly and be able to also grasp as well. And that's why it's a very important use case. Also, it enables a lot of potential search, automation, analytics with minimal lift. You're also able to get a good grasp of utilizing, for instance, like at least within the context of Azure Vision particularly, that gives you a good quality, high quality text extraction through a simple API. So whatever platform you're using, whether it be Azure, AWS, Google Cloud, all of these particularly usually you have a very specific API SDK to be able to help with that. And of course, also pretty much today, smallest useful slice essentially, and have that way of being able to utilize OCR for being able to have a single file reliably and essentially be able to scale out based on that. So what do we want to build? It's just a simple CLI script really that reads a JPEG file and prints recognized text, has a read feature from Azure Vision Image Analysis, utilizing that in particular, utilizing the Azure AI SDK, and have an environmental-driven config for getting the endpoint/key, and pretty much just in general be able to also clear errors as well, put out clear errors as well if there are any environmental variables or files that are missing. So what does code look like? More or less like this. As you can see, it's a very simplified version of being able to do it. So pretty much starting out with like loading the environment variables pretty much, using like load.env, getting specific like endpoint, using os-get-env, which pretty much is just enabling us to be able to prevent from hard coding it, of course, to be able to just extract it from the system, from at least this for local development purposes, of course. For path to image, pretty much, we would then just join accordingly as well, based on, at least that's particularly what I'm calling the particular text file, which is like linkedin.jpg, join it to a folder, and pretty much just get the credential through Azure Key Credential to be able to essentially help with the authentication process. We would then use the image analysis client, which is basically from the Azure AI SDK client, to be able to get initialize the client, and then pretty much just open the path to image. We use RB to be able to read and as bytes essentially, because the SDK itself expects the reading to be in terms of bytes, and pretty much read in the file that way, take in the image data, and pretty much just perform the read that way. And when we get the result itself, we would then essentially, of course, run the analyze method, and based on the result, we would then just iterate over the result to be able to print out what essentially is obtained as part of that particular result. So it's much more straightforward than most would think pretty much as part of image analysis itself, but as part of output parsing itself, you would then essentially get a bit of a hierarchical structure. Sample loop would dive into results, something like, as I was mentioning before, with your loop, result, read, blocks, and pretty much like at the 0 index, and essentially get specific like lines to words that way. And in general, it's just a bit of a safer iteration as well, because you can check for multiple blocks and pages, and pretty much are able to also print full lines per serve spacing, and also be able to you also need to be able to handle non-gracefully as well, and accordingly lock the raw JSON as well during development for specific edge cases. So a bit of a demo how that would look like. As you can see over here, I'm just executing it. So yeah, pretty much ignore the audio, but yeah, pretty much how that would look like is that you would then see basically the parsing over there. So that's basically how it would work. You execute it and it would basically get printed out like this. Where it fits within the general Azure system. So this is an example of a particular production pipeline that you might see that actually has image analysis in the flow. So you might have the user device uploading to Azure Blob storage, for instance, as a storage service. You then would see event grid being used as part of that, and then pretty much that would then throw into Azure Function as the OCR worker. That pretty much would throw into Key Vault for retrieving specific environmental variables. That also will essentially then throw into performing the AI Vision Image Analysis read function, and that pretty much would go into Cosmos DB, particularly for storage purposes, and we put in the logs appropriately within log analytics. We then go into AI search index appropriately based on what we already obtained from that, and that essentially might then be flowing to web apps and eventually be visualized on Power BI dashboards. So there's also the need for hardening as well. There's also consideration of reliability, security, cost control, observability, quality. I'm not going to go too deep into this, but it's very important pretty much, and I just wanted to put this particularly just highlight what would be needed as particularly for from a production standpoint, essentially. So important things include being able to ensure that we are handling asynchronous batches properly, having no keys in code, and just essentially putting good practices in terms of that. So what's part of the next steps? Well, things like multi-file ingestion from a container prefix, having parallel function executions, having more downstream enrichment is always a great thing. Having more of a searchable repository as well, possibly with via Azure AI Search, potentially via semantic ranking as well. That can be one of the things that's built into this. Having human-in-the-loop review as well, or of course like low confidence pages as well as part of the OCR extraction, since they do return as well like the confidence level, and pretty much good governance as well. So you can also learn more as well through a book that I created as well. Pretty much it's called the Azure AI Engineer Associate. And particularly today, so it's basically a book that I created basically to more or less kind of like guide through all things AI, particularly especially in basically getting certification within the AI 102, which is one of Microsoft's AI certifications. And in particular, it's actually one of the things that I actually will be doing a side of a giveaway today, basically via this talk as well. So what I would like all of you to do now is pretty much just to get your devices out, and we're just going to play a very quick quiz, basically. So let me just go here now. So how we're going to do this is basically, I'm just going to host this room. And you're just gonna basically put in this quick, this 6-digit code basically. And essentially how it's gonna work is that the top 3 basically people who score the best basically in this quiz is gonna get the book basically. So yeah, just a bit of a giveaway. We'll probably just give about maybe like 2 minutes, yeah. So yeah, you'll just have to go to the play.luca.com essentially to join in. Okay, looks like we're starting to slow down. Anyone else still joining at the meanwhile? Just give it 10 more seconds. Okay, we'll get started. All right, we'll get started then. Yep, so as for the first question, what does the if name equals to main guard ensure? So these are just a mixture of general Python questions, but also AI questions as well, essentially. All right, so I think most of us got that correct. All right, so like Kunal P is taking the lead. So you're evaluating an imbalanced binary classifier in Python. Which metric is generally the most informative default? R-square score, F1 score, accuracy, or mean squared error? All right, the answer is F1 score. I think, yeah, 43% got it. It's pretty good. All right. Let's see the overall standings. Yep, Vishnu is up there. Configuration can be read via os.getEnd. What's a Pythonic benefit of this approach? I did mention it earlier as well. All right, most of us got it. Secrets are hard-coded into source files. Looks like standings is looking pretty good. We have Jay now as number 1. Great stuff. All right, 4th question. Who held the benevolent dictator for life? BDFL title for Python. A. Larry Ellison. B. Tim Peters. C. Guido von Rosen. And D. Raymond Ettinger. Looks like most of us got Guido. Very good. Most of us know our Python history. And let's see who's taking the lead now. So Ned is taking the lead now. Very nice. And finally, comparing an image for an AI vision SDK call in Python, why is the file open with RB? This is another one that I did mention earlier as well, but yeah, let's see. All right, SDK expects raw bytes rather than text. Okay, and as part of final standings, let's see who is going to be the first top three. So Matt, Warwick, and Ned. All right. Great job, all. So first of all, where's Ned at? Oh, here we go. Okay, so, yep. Here you are. And where's Warwick? Who's Warwick? Oh, Warwick.
Thank you.
And finally, where's Matt? Oh, all right. So in the interest of time, if there's any questions about my talk, I'll take them pretty much after, wrap up essentially. So yeah, I'll pass back now. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Renaldi, for the activity. It was quite fun, right? Okay, thank you so much, guys. Now we would like to speak up. I didn't get what you.
No.
Yeah, we will be having a marketplace, so people who are hiring or recruiters here, so I would like to call them, or they can just approach here, or is anybody here for hiring? Yeah.
I think Mel mentioned we're hiring before.
Hey, you can take the mic.
Yeah, Mel mentioned we're hiring before. I work at Style Education, work with Mel. Our science education platform is used by half of students in Australia. We're expanding to the US, where we expect to have a few million students within the next couple of years, which is going to be huge growth. So if you're interested in scalability problems, or you're interested in science, maths, teaching English even, come chat to me.
What roles are you hiring?
Software engineers and writers.
Thank you, man. Anybody else? I think okay. Nobody? Okay. So thank you so much, guys, for coming. It was really fantastic, and see you in the next talk in the next month. Thank you.